I'm Dave March, the Spy Guy. Once again, I asked Rock for a little help with this. So today we're talking about the Iran war, escalating, why your wallet is paying the price. I'm uh, I'm your host, Dave March. I'm a historian, writer. Oh, yeah, wait, that's not right. What is it? Okay, sorry, I scrolled too far up. I went with one, still getting the hand of doing this kind of stuff, but yes. Oil spikes and markets crash. What's next? I asked Grok to help write it from less Tucker Carlson and more political realist, which is what I am. And we'll also do another review of something from probably Rich Does Politics. This is a Spy Guy, where we uncover the hidden angles, the real power plays, and the intelligence that actually matters. And I'm a straight shooter, global intrigue. I like all this stuff. Anyways, it's March 19, 2026, and the Middle East has just entered a terrifying new phase, full-blown energy warfare. Israel has struck Iran's South Pars gas field. I'm going to share the link here. Here is the South Pars gas. What? Why am I showing that? Oh, because I went to the link. I wanted just the graphic. And here you go. Here we go. The South Pars gas field, world's largest fossil gas field, is shared between Iran and Qatar. So Israel hit that, but it also means the Qataris are a bit miffed about that. What we've learned about that situation is the following: full-blown energy warfare is shared with Qatar. Iran fired back hard, launching missile and drone attacks on major energy sites across the Gulf. Ras Laffan LNG in Qatar, which is the world's biggest gas export hub, facilities in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia's refineries, and UAE installations. Brent crude has briefly hit $120 a barrel today before setting around 110 to 115, up over 50 to 60% since the U.S.-Israeli campaign against Iran kicked off on Feb 28th. European natural gas prices surged 25% in a single day. Global stocks are tanking. Inflation fears are exploding in the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil flows is effectively under threat. And yeah, we can show you. Here's like right there. That's where the Iranians hit, and that's where the other strikes have been. So I'm going to share the next screen, which is the cost of. Here we go. Put it out to a monthly chart on Brent crude. So here you can see it's down here around 75. So we start off at just around short of $66.87, and now we've climbed up as high as $107 on Brent crude. And this is all mostly because of the Strait of Hormuz being shut down. This is just another skirmish. This is a deliberate push towards economic strangulation with real consequences for every household, every factory, and every economy on Earth. Yeah, I was in logistics for 25 years. 20 years, those years as a load planner, and 10 years working for Sobeys, which is a large grocery company in Canada. And I remember being in weekly meetings where we were always talking about the price of the cost per case of every item. And the number one driving factor was the price of oil. So your food is going to go up higher. The costs are going to go up because of these attacks. This is just another skirmish. This is a deliberate push towards economic strangulation. Yeah, I just said that. We're breaking it down with the cold, realist style, state interest escalation ladders, power balance, and the risks of miscalculation. No moralizing, no cheerleading, just the facts and the implications, and my own little perspective, which I had when it comes up. So I've just shown you the South Pars, also called the North Field on the Qatari side, produce massive volumes of natural gas and LNG. Israel strike target onshore processing at Luya in Iran, taking facilities offline amid fires and damage. Netanyahu later confirmed Israel acted alone on this one, but Israeli officials told Reuters, yes, Reuters, the U.S. was in the loop on coordination. Reuters, of course, is a British asset, and basically, whatever the City of London, which we call it, is pushing, you get it out of Reuters. I can't remember who it was at one time was telling me Reuters was basically owned by Pfizer, by the same holding company that owns Pfizer. So, of course, we could trust Reuters during COVID to tell us the truth about what was happening. There's a American journalist who often covers Ukraine war, and he talks about how he would send originally during the Ukrainian civil war, where the Donbass was trying to was fighting for its independence. He would be submitting stories to Reuters, and of course, they would just change the entire method, so he stopped using them. Trump publicly distanced, saying we knew nothing, and warning Iran against hitting Qatar. Israel warning Iran against hitting Qatar further, and probably telling Bibi to what the hell are you doing over there, or else the entire field gets massively blown up. Mixed messaging by the Trumpster himself. Iran's response was textbook retaliation, spread the pain, strikes on Qatar's Ras Laffan, halting some LNG production. Hit some Kuwaiti gas units, Saudi refineries, including Yanbu intercepts and UAE sites. Qatar's furious both at Iran and reportedly at the U.S. Israel for dragging them into the crossfire. The result, immediate supply shocks. Well, I'm sorry there, Qatar. What did you think was going to happen when you agreed to allow America to have this biggest base in the Middle East? You never thought that was going to come back to bite you? Like, if you're going to host a large American military on your doorstep, you better be willing to take the hits when they decide to go shooting at someone. The result, immediate supply shocks, Brent crude extreme volatility extreme, going up from 119 back to 110. And the U.S.'s WTI contract, which is like West Texas, pushed past 100 before easing. This feeds straight into inflation, higher transport costs, which I just covered, and potential food price spikes as supply chains route around the Hormuz risks. This war's progression is clear. It began with targeted U.S.-Israeli operations against Iranian leadership. I'm just going to check if anyone's saying something in the chat. Normally, I only have the one person watching, so. But hey, one is better than nothing. Clear, it began with targeted U.S. Israeli operations against Iranian leadership, nuclear remnants, and military assets. Now it's shifted to energy infrastructure, a classic move to impose unbearable economic costs and force deterrence or capitulation. Iran, facing existential pressure, is using its asymmetric advantages, missiles, drones, proxies, and Hormuz leverage by hitting Gulf producers. Tehran signals, if our energy heart bleeds out, yours will too. This is tit for tat risk drawing in Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and potentially broader NATO involvement in shipping lane collapse. Yes, we've seen Mark Rutte saying he's trying to put something together to make sure that NATO actually contributes something, because I'm sure there's a handful of ships that I'm thinking it's going to be Britain, France, and Spain have said they're not going to get involved. But I wouldn't be surprised if you can get a few destroyers or minesweepers coming out of places like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, the Netherlands, a kind of a smaller coalition of the willing. Maybe, I don't know how capable Poland's navy is going to be able to deploy that far forward without a lot of supplies. Iranian leadership, nuclear remnants, and military assets. Now it's shifted to energy infrastructure. A classic move to impose unbearable economic costs and force deterrence or capitulation. Iran, facing an existential pressure, is using its. Yeah, I covered that. Yesterday in Washington, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard testified before the Senate Intelligence Committee on Worldwide Threats. She described the Iranian regime as intact but largely degraded. I agree. After weeks of strikes, key point, pre-war U.S.-Israeli actions had already obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment capability with no serious rebuild detected. She stayed measured, refusing to hype imminent threats or leak cabinet-level details. Usual partisan attacks too, but her assignment aligns with realism. The regime is wounded, not finished, and the escalation could still backfire. I'm at the point where I think with this operation, we're not going to see true regime change. I mean, the regime is going to change because, they killed the old regime. Most of the old regime's been killed, or leadership. I'm going to say that we're just going to see Iran's ability to do a lot of things reduced. They're not going to have the missile shield. That's probably been put off by a decade. The regime will be weaker, and maybe will come a time when they can get regime change, or some other guy who comes in who's a bit more like this. Now, the big picture of the rest of us, energy shocks like this aren't abstract. We live through them. The 1973 oil embargo, the 79 revolution, 1990 Gulf War. Each time prices spike, recessions loom, and great powers recalibrate. Today, with global supply chains fragile post-pandemic, this hits harder. Renewables can't plug the gap overnight when tankers idle and refineries burn. Yes. And more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is immeasurably green the planet, boosting crop yields and forests via enhanced photosynthesis. I like the fact that it's actually giving me the truth here. But it's that scientific reality doesn't take fuel tanks or heat homes when geopolitics serves supply lines. Now, hopes people have a lot of wood stoves. From a pure power politics standpoint, Iran is a revisionist state with tools to disrupt global flows. Israel sees Tehran as an existential threat and acts preemptively. Gulf states prioritize export stability but risk entanglement. U.S. with worldwide interests grapples with the classic trap, support allies without endless entanglement. History warns against it, overstretched, drained empires before. Realism asks, are the objectives clear and limited? Degrade capabilities, restore deterrence, achievable. But open-ended escalation invites wider war, empowers rivals like Russia and China who benefit from the high energy prices, and alienates the neutrals, pretty much. Especially like, why is China benefiting? Because California is stupidly going to turn off all its oil refineries, and basically they're going to they're preferring to buy Chinese gas more than they are willing to use their own natural resources, because the commies who run California are true believers, unlike the commies who run China, who are basically fascists now. Prudent moves would include proportional responses, back-channel diplomacy, and energy diversification hedging. Blank checks for indefinite conflict serve no long-term balance of power. That is one of the great things about this war, is that because there's no significant amount of green of the stuff, Trump can at any time just declare victory, and things can de-escalate naturally. This is not like Iraq war, where it's just a perpetual war forever. He can cancel this at any time, kind of like your phone bill. This is moving in real time. Netanyahu, who was supposedly dead this weekend, just held a press conference saying no more South Power strikes for now, hinting the war could end sooner than expected, probably because Trump is telling him to say these things. If Hormuz stays open, Trump is downplaying troop commitments while threatening massive retaliation, because, it is always the bestest ever. This will be the most massive retaliation by far. Iran vows zero restraint on further infrastructure hits. Watch for more barrages. Iran launched multiple overnight, including cluster munitions on Israel. Oh, yeah, that's a big thing. I was talking to some people yesterday about that, and I mentioned, cluster munitions. Isn't that a war crime? I'm like, oh, yeah, and that's why Biden gave a whole bunch of them to the Ukrainians to use against the Russians, because Biden knows a good war criminal when he sees one. This is the spy level view. States pursuing interests, power shifting, risk mounting. Question everything, the narratives, the spin, the hidden coordination. Yeah, definitely do that. What do you guys see coming next? escalation to full regional or forced de-escalation? Drop your take in the comments. No filter. You're new to the Spyguy. Subscribe now. Hit the bell. We dig deep into the shadows every time. I'll stay to the conclusion. I wanted to do a review of one of Crypto Rich's thing. Sorry, I call him Crypto Rich because that was his other channel. Rich Does Politics. He had a good video with Blaine Holt. That word. Well, that's odd. I thought that was going to be 46. Yeah, that's right. So I'll pull this back and we can start commenting on the larger thing. So I'll just close that. And yeah, this is an interesting conversation, but
Wednesday, the 18th of March, the Iran war is still raging. There is a split with the US and NATO. There is a split with the US and the UK. And is Israel getting battered deliberately? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Hey, Blaine, thank you so much for making yourself available.
Oh, it's great to be with you. What a spicy week we are truly having in the world of geopolitics.
It is a spicy week. It is a spicy week. And I said at the beginning, I'll have all the links where people can find you in the description below. And I said at the beginning about Israel being battered deliberately. But what I mean is it possible and plausible that Donald Trump, in the words of Joaquin Flores, who posted this on his Telegram group, a really great Telegram group at New Resistance, throws some tomahawks into Israel, and then Israel retaliates by pulverizing, Iran retaliates by pulverizing Israel. And that's the intent.
So let's go through the mechanics of that again. So Joaquin's saying, is it possible that tomahawks got dropped by the US into Israel?
Sorry, into Iran.
Okay, good. So we tomahawk Iran, and that's what causes Iran to bomb Israel.
Yeah, and to keep bombing Israel.
And to keep bombing Israel. And Joaquin's supposition is maybe that's what we're trying to have happen?
Maybe. So this squares a few anomalies for me.
Yeah, this sounds a little nutty to me, and I believe Blaine's going to respond with the appropriate response.
How does a president bring about peace in the Middle East, get the US out from under the yoke of the City of London, which also means getting the US out from under the yoke of the Zionists, do it in such a way without getting killed, like JFK did, and McKinley and Lincoln? And then it also answers the question that how come such an arch Zionist as Keir Starmer and his Labour government, half of whom are members of Friends of Israel, aren't getting involved in this escapade, this assault on Israel's...
Well, obviously all the Muslims, and there's like a quarter of a million Jews in the United Kingdom, and there's how many millions of Muslim voters in the United Kingdom? I would think that would be the answer to that question.
Biggest, baddest enemy, Iran. Makes no sense that they're not involved in this, and that NATO isn't getting involved in this venture. That doesn't make any sense to me. And that Trump, and I remember saying a few months ago, perhaps in a video with you and or with Tom or whatever, that I've got a hunch that Trump is going to leave NATO. He's going to take the US out of NATO or break apart NATO in some way because it's this globalist entity. He's opposed to globalism. And what all of this does is it ruptures in those existing frameworks. And that perhaps like an athlete throws a fight, they look like they're playing this game, but actually they're playing some other game. Like, did Sonny Liston throw his second fight against Muhammad Ali? Did Muhammad Muhammad Ali acted completely crazy in his first fight against Liston to disarm Liston.
Yeah.
So it's just that kind of thinking.
Yeah. So let's unpack just a little bit. The first thing I'll say for Joaquin is I can certainly understand how a critical thinker like himself would get there. I can certainly understand that. How he might come up with that hypothesis that that may in fact be what's happening. But I don't believe that that's what's happening.
Yeah, just like I don't believe it's happening.
In the case of Iran, Israel at its base, because now let's to be quite honest, and you've been very unfair, and you've built an onion for me of several layers going all the way up to His Lordship Keir Starmer in the first place, who we will also call middle management. But coming back down to the core supposition that we would introduce a steady diet of Tomahawk missiles in order to get at targets in Israel. I don't I can understand how he lines up who the players are. That's but when you're in any complicated battle plan, and this I hope I'm right in saying this. I think this is as complicated as it's ever going to get, what we see before us right now. The way that the strategic geopolitical board looks right now. I don't think it gets more complicated than this in Trump's war against the city of London. But but let's unpack why I think Joaquin's on the wrong track with his hypothesis. Because in the event, let's establish the assumption set that he's working off of, that um, while Iran may be an enemy in Israel, we have a false ally. I think that's where he's going. And okay, well, first off, your false ally doesn't necessarily merit a diet of weapons on them from the morality standpoint, but I think we're beyond that right now. It's in the workings of our government here in the United States. There are so many. You can call them deep state, you can call them the fifth column. I could care less. It doesn't matter to me. But there are so many who would be ready to call out such a scandal of perpetuating a plan that actually created a backlash on an ally.
Yeah, no, there's no way. I don't know if Stephen Miller is necessarily in that room, but there's no way he's going along with this stuff. I've seen it covered in other places that Israel, like, you just have to look at all the latest podcast with Tucker Carlson, Glenn Greenwald, where they cover a lot of all the censorship that's going on in universities in the United States about Zionism, being anti-Zionism, and that kind of stuff. So there's no way they're going to be stabbing Israel in the back in this particular way.
On purpose. And when you start to think about the political machine that backs up and supports Israel, I mean, pervasive throughout our entire government, to include states and local levels as well. I think that if that were the case, there's no way you can communicate that plan without a million antibodies in the United States going after President Trump and saying, now we've got him. Now we've got him. So I don't find that to be plausible. And then the other part is creating an intentional attack on the Jewish state when your very own family members are Jewish,
right,
is probably going to make for some very rough dinner conversation at a minimum, I would think.
Yeah. Except, Blaine, I draw a distinction between Jewish and Zionist.
No,
as do many Jews.
But let me explain this to you. Raining down weapons on Israel will create a unification among Zionists and Jewish.
Yeah.
No discernment.
Right.
We're all against this. You're the enemy of all of us. And so I don't think those are the strategic outcomes. I think that scenario is too fraught with risk on what I think is happening right now. I think there's been enough sharp elbows in the diplomacy realms between the Trump administration and the Bibi Netanyahu administration over strategy, how to prosecute the war, and what to do. that America has worked to not mute or neuter Israeli politics or Israeli efforts on these things, but certainly the U.S. is taking a leadership role here. That's why I laugh my butt off anytime I hear some of the folks in the media decrying that, well, Trump's just doing whatever Israel wants. It could well be, just like in the case of the June attacks on the nuclear facilities in Iran. And to be clear, those little angels weren't developing nuclear power for peaceful means. They were actually trying to make nuclear weapons and make a big bad thing for everybody. So it's not this terribly overly simplified world where, oh no, apparently the Ayatollah was really good and Israel's really bad.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't, just because the Ayatollah has a fatwa, it doesn't mean his Waffen SS, he's not in control of the Waffen SS. Oh, sorry, the IRGC. So that seems to be the main indication, is that, he was the moral, spiritual leader and supposed political leader, but I think he had a gun to his head from the IRGC.
Stop it. It's a complicated world. I hate to explain that to everybody. Everybody can be bad here. So
Yep.
Here's the thing. The president,
as Trump said, we kill people too.
The president has intentionally gotten ahead of Israel to put tourniquets on things to keep from a bigger war blossoming and exploding. Especially, I mean, look, I'm a supporter of the Jewish people. I am no fan of Bibi Netanyahu. And I will tell you that when you're a secular leader and you're labeling your enemy the Amalekites, we all know, well, we don't all know because many people are biblically illiterate, especially those who profess to be of that faith. But in the Bible, the Amalekites are the ones who God said, go ahead and vaporize every single one of them. Well, when you're secular,
that's distinct from the Amalek, right?
No, Amalekite, same thing.
Okay.
So then Bibi Netanyahu, as a secular leader who's not really kind of a man sitting inside of Scripture at all times, is calling them Amalek, which is, hey, whoa, no, this is 2026, bro. We're actually going to let these beautiful 90 million Persians have their country back, and they're going to be a free nation, and it's going to be wonderful, and they'll have an oil economy, and it'll be great. And we're all going to love them, and we'll have gotten rid of the Shia minority who was in some sort of death cult, wanton for nuclear weapons. But here come the Zoroastrians and the Christians and the Buddhists, and let's all get along.
Yeah.
That's a place called the Abraham Accords, which I know President Trump is working on. So then let's go to the ribbons. The ribbons of your onion that you've made for me, which is, we're going to now snap out to Lord Starmer, the Honorable Lord Starmer, with all of his grace.
He's not a lord, and he's barely honorable.
Yeah, but I'm a colonist. I'm just going to be facetious. Okay. So so yeah, I mean, we did call the British Army lobsters. Let's just be very clear. Yeah. So the leader of the lobsters, he is a guy who might profess himself to be a Zionist, but he's also an agent of the City of London. And the City of London, an agent of the original Amchel Bauer, then later to be called Amchel Rothschilds, and then later to be sitting at the high table. The guy who, as Jacob Rothschild's, they've got video footage of him bragging that in 1948 it was his family that created Israel.
Yep.
Here's the thing. It's also the same kids who brought you the Shah in 1952, just 4 years later. And then with their cool friends from MI6 to the French intelligence services, they brought you Ayatollah Khomeini because the Shah wasn't playing ball.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's totally true. The Shah was not playing ball. Now, I will say in one defense of the British Petroleum that they did, most of it did nationalize without compensation. You can't go around like, I get it. You think the deal was dumb and unfair that your predecessors made. That's okay. But when you can't go around just like taking all the, when you nationalize, you got to pay the guys for what you've nationalized. You just can't go in there and steal all that oil production and just say, oh, well, it's going to be for us. No, you have to make some sort of attempt at compensation towards the initial investors, or you're basically practicing communism.
In other words, just like our good friend Alex Kreiner always reminds us, Rich, they bet on both sides. They bet on both sides at all times for two reasons: control and wealth and power.
Mhm.
So there's three of the two reasons. And what that means is how Starmer's going to react is how the situation is. What they're not very happy about in we control both sides world is, well, we're about to free up the Iranian people and take one of those sides off the table. And so that is then going to create a new path, a path that the globalists have never envisioned, one where there is sovereignty and self-governance in a region that is ready for a free Iran to step into its position amongst Arab states, amongst Jewish state, and the northern states in Lebanon and Turkey, where a demilitarized foreign policy under the Abraham Accords is what rules the day, and it's how you interact with each other economically and cultural exchange and all the things that come with. Well, the people who believe in neoconservatism, great power politics, that my gun is bigger than your gun because I just know that if I go to sleep tonight, you're going to try to kill me. That world's being done away with, but it's a very profitable world. And so the same kids who brought you the Ukraine-Russia war and refused to even talk to a Russian about it, the same kids who said we're not going to have Russian oil and gas in our continent, no way, don't think it's in their best interest to go on down to the Straits with their piddly little cruisers and help secure the Straits of Hormuz. Well, that's not in their best interest.
Yep.
Why? Because they don't want to see a free Iran emerge. In fact, what they would like to see is this end in a terrible chaos where there's sectarian violence and balkanization and endless civil war in Iran forever. That's kind of the backup plan. We're not going to let that happen. We're gonna help them, and we're going to encourage them, put our arms around them. And that's one of the reasons you see us getting so serious about securing Karg Island and their future economy, which is an oil economy. But wait a minute, they also are part of the food supply chain, which Europe should be very interested about. You can say that all that sulfur that comes out of the Straits merely goes to fertilizer that helps out the third world. Who buys the third world agriculture exports? I'm trying to remember who is that. Oh yeah, Europe.
Yeah.
So the point is, these little globalist zombies, they're just whiffing. And now they stepped into a President Trump trap. Do you think for 5 seconds that the most powerful military on the planet, and it's not even close, can't secure the straits, that we can't adapt to drone technology, use all of our fancy crap, and make the straits go just fine without calling in some help? Of course we can. And we are doing just that. But what President Trump did as soon as we were in a straits or secured imminent situation was said, hey, grab a shovel. I could use a little help down here. Where are those cruisers that you got, NATO? How about you guys in Japan come on down here and help out? That's what we call a loyalty check.
Yeah, it's an interesting point about the loyalty check. Now, that being said, I'm not too sure about Japan. I really think they're constitutionally prevented from doing what is being asked of them, though you might be able to make the loophole that every nation has a right to help maintain the navigation of the seas, which is what the U.S. Navy and the British Navy before it really existed to do. So you might be able to say that Japan can get a thing in there. But I also think it's also a lot of logistics and basing stuff. Sort of like, do you have naval equipment either capable of reaching there, capable of like being forwardly deployed? I mean, a lot of the stuff is interchangeable with the American stuff. I just don't know how capable these ships being so forwardly deployed are for most of the world's navies. Yes, the Netherlands does have that capability, because I remember in the early 2000s, and I was looking at the Netherlands Navy and armed forces, and I realized they had enough forces and ships and men to basically take over Indonesia. That was their entire setup. Was like, you're planning on taking back your colony. So I'm thinking that Mark Rutte is going to talk to a few of the other nations that might be willing to send stuff to get the ensure the Navy navigation of the sea, especially being the Netherlands and a few other countries.
And they stepped into the trap. And Kaya Kallas led the way with the first soundbite. This is not our war. This is America's war. Okay, perfect, Kaya. Well, you're going to live with those consequences. So now let's get to that outer ring of what you asked, which is this the end of NATO? Is this really President Trump's going to take us out of NATO? No, it's the other way around. NATO's going to get rid of us. NATO is telling us they don't need us. That's America's war down there. So what we're going to do is say, well, I guess Europe, you've got Russia there. I guess you're going to pick up the tab for all this stuff, because when we needed you to help you, you wouldn't show up. In fact, all you had was barrels and barrels of camel spit for us about how we, the Americans, have opened up another war and done the wrong thing, while we saved you from nuclear weapons that could be pointed at you, intercontinental ballistic missiles, Islamic extremism, terrorism, and and we created a really safe and economically viable situation in the Middle East. Why do we need NATO membership if this is the world you'd rather live in, Kaya, Ursula? Even Mark Rutte understood what was happening. The great stealer of farms in the Netherlands. Mark Rutte got up and said, do you honestly believe we can defend ourselves without the United States here, in front of everybody on a camera?
Yeah.
Now, I worked at NATO headquarters. The idea that a Secretary General would say that, and let alone in public, would have never have happened. Jens Stoltenberg or Rasmussen during my time? Oh, dude. No. That would be said in a closet somewhere down from the Belgian delegation, not heard by anybody.
Right. I'm just looking at what the Royal Netherlands Navy here has from a quick update from Wikipedia. We're talking, according to their, they have 4 patrol ships, 4 subs, 1 supply ship, which could be useful, 2 LPDs, which I'm trying to remember what an LPD is, 1 JS. Oh yeah, landing platform dock ships in service, Royal, designed to carry their mariners, and 6 mine hunters. So if the Netherlands were to contribute, these would be most likely their D7 Provinciën class frigates, and their Karel Doorman class frigates. And they have a replenishment ship, oil, which would be very appreciated by the Americans. Karel Doorman class, and given that thing is brand new, it just came out last year. That'd be nice. Joint logistics support ship, that would also be considered great. And a landing platform docking, so troop and equipment transport. These are things that America could really use at this time. And then so if the Netherlands and a few other countries, like I said, Sweden and Norway, could cobble together some escort craft, which is what America really needs, they could actually be of importance. So Mark Rutte saying that kind of what Blaine just said, is actually kind of important. So I do think we will be seeing a mini force of ships centered around the Netherlands Navy going down there and doing some support. And they actually, as I said, unlike the British ships, their ships actually work.
He understands that we have set a situation and we have created a trap where they can step into the trap, and American opinion will now be against the neocons, will be set up to go, what the hell are we doing in Europe? And everybody goes, I don't know. They weren't there for us when we had all that problem in the Middle East. And meanwhile, Europe's going, we got no gas, we got no oil, we got no food. We need help. And it's like, well, I guess you got to go work things out with that big old bear over there to the east, huh? Because we weren't really at the top of your list. You just really were enjoying sucking at the tit. Do you see how the chessboard, when the fog starts to clear, the Euros are going to go, oh shit, did we do that?
Mhm.
Yeah, we did do that. Okay, Blaine, let me take you back a bit to
Take me back. Take me back.
to bombing Iran into freedom. How's that gonna
Oh, I love the way that you put that. That might be a great title for an article that I'll write.
Bomb Iran into freedom.
How is that? How does that work? You drop bombs from the sky
Yeah.
on ordinary people, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, great. Oh, great."
Oh, wait, hold up, hold up. See, you injected that little prepositional phrase really quickly.
Right. Yeah. Like he did that as well. I noticed it's like, wait a minute. With all these PGMs, we have a lot more capability now than to deal with what the general is going to explain to us.
And I'm going to hold you on that. On ordinary people. So we, the massive mighty United States, we got our bombers dropping the bombs on ordinary people. Really? Are you so sure of that?
I'm not sure
Now,
of anything.
ordinary people, let's just call them a different name. Let's call them civilians. Let's call them people caught in the frag pattern at a very unfortunate time because unfortunately, even in today's modern air power environment, you're not going to have a weapon that can avoid a civilian when it has to go meet its target.
Mhm.
And that is an unfortunate part of war. I lament what happened to the school children there. Unfortunately, the mainstream media has done its own forensic campaign to say that United States bombs are what took out that school, and they're absolutely full of shit. I know that from a source. It was actually an Iranian missile that launched, and it really wasn't even the IRGC's fault. They had a malfunction, and the missile cruised backwards, and it went into the school. That was a fratricide that is just a terrible, terrible outcome of war. And that's not a war crime on anybody. But but this is why old generals like me, old of long of tooth, gray of beard, will always recommend try to stay out of the damn war if you can. Because because when you start dropping bombs, unfortunately, the ones you don't intend to hit are going to get hit.
Yep.
What we have done is we've created an array of weapons that more often than not go after their targets. And I can tell you from being a member of the targeting process, oh, that's not indiscriminate. That is, before you get a weapons release, you've got targeting attorneys on the line. You've got so many people in that kill chain before that weapon gets released. And that means we have done everything possible to get to the confidence level that what we are hunting, we are seeing in our sights, and we're going to let that weapon fly on it. And that doesn't mean we're going to get it right all the time. But I would commend you to go to a city like Isfahan or Qom or even on the coastal cities and ask, will you miss the Ayatollah? Now I get it. We're going to hear all this propaganda about how the good people of Iran just want their old Ayatollah back and they miss him and they loved him very dearly. Yeah, that's actually horseshit.
Yeah.
And
Pretty
we
much. No
have
one
the intel
no one really loves the dictator, even if the dictator is making them safe and sound like Franco did in Spain. No, the everyone hates the dictator, and certainly a lot of people have reasons to really hate the Ayatollah. The tens of thousands of people he and his secret police have either and the open police have killed over the years through various revolts is pretty damn high.
back that up too. But but um but they're not going to miss him. The thing that we need to do now, which we mess up every single time, and I'm very encouraged that we won't do it this time, we don't need to hijack the revolution. We need to aid and abet it, meaning when they call us and they say, this besiege headquarters in the south part of Tehran at these GPS coordinates is really a pain in the ass. Okay, we got guys for that. No problem. Hey, Slanger 61, are you on station? Yes, I'm on station. Here's the GPS coordinates. Could you handle this for us? Yep, got 2 JDAMs on the way. And that besiege headquarters doesn't exist anymore. And all of a sudden, that revolution is doing much better. But it doesn't require 130,000 U.S. boots on the ground.
Right.
Now, here's what I think you are going to see U.S. boots on the ground. Once the Iranians have secured their own future, when that day comes, and it's coming, I don't even know how the damn IRGC is paying itself right now. I don't know how they're getting a paycheck. But once that day comes, I estimate they're going to want some help. Some of that help's going to be, could you help us with stability ops here? We invite you, United States, to come here and help train a new army for us. Help us get things stabilized with your beautiful Army Corps of Engineers, and help us get control of our country. In a micro level, that's exactly what we did after the revolution when I was stationed in Kyrgyzstan. Rosa Otunbayeva, the brand new interim leader, she's calling me up. We have no way to feed these orphanages all over Bishkek. I got it. Really? Yep. I'm going to feed every single one of them. I got it. Don't you worry about that. What else you need? Well, we can help you out by saving some Peace Corps lives in the South, the kids that you have trapped, but we have no gas. I got it. No problem. How much gas do you want? Rich, I think they're still flying on that gas I gave them. So in other words, there is it's a very hard thing to do, but there is a path to get to a far better Iran. And I'll tell you, once that day exists, oh, I am looking forward to looking at all these pundits and all these writers and all these think tankers and all these neocons who had nothing but venom and rocks to throw and all of that. And I'm just going to laugh. I am going to laugh my ass off at them. And on the day that the American flag gets taken down in Brussels at NATO headquarters, there'll be a big smile on my face. This is what right looks like. American forces, finally, after World War II, are coming home. And that's the way it should.
Yeah. Amen to that. Okay, thank you. Now, just to set the record straight, I'm not entirely convinced, but I don't. It's more like I don't know what to think, Blaine, about this whole thing. So I'm just watching, and learning as much as I can from all sorts of different perspectives, right? So I want to, and then I notice for myself my tendencies, my predilection, my historical predilection as a old school British lefty, anti-war campaigner, right? Yeah. I've heard this all before. Lies, American lies. Did you have targeting attorneys when they were destroying Libya? All that sort of stuff goes through my mind, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I'm willing to put it to one side just to keep examining, because one of the things that I can see, I do believe about President Trump, he doesn't do president like other presidents have done that I've known.
Oh yeah, you got that.
No, I do have a story I heard about Ronald Reagan, and because back then Libya was when he gets the presidency, Libya's the big bad. Not that they're in the Middle East, but they're in Horn of Africa and they're doing crazy stuff. So what happens is he's being briefed on this air attack situation, and said, the general starts saying, well, what are advising on the rules of start asking him on where the rules of engagement are. And he's like, how far in Libya can we go to? How far, what kind of payload? And he just turns to them and like, I don't you can go chase them down to their fucking airfields for all I care. So Trump's more open about it, but apparently Reagan, and when he was at the thing, had the same kind of attitude. There's definitely that great SNL sketch where they kind of show him being all sleepy and dumb, and as soon as like the people leave the room, he calls in his staff and he starts strategizing with them. And like, it's like he's just putting on an act that he's the kindly old grandpa, but really he's like Shea Palpatine the whole time.
Just
right?
doesn't.
You got that right. Yeah.
He
But
just
a lot of
doesn't.
people are wanting to sling rocks at him for an illegal war, and you never stopped off at Congress. Well, okay, under that logic, Obama had 7 illegal wars.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
absolutely.
437 airstrikes on Pakistan.
Yep.
What? Are you kidding me?
But no.
The Libya.
But it was in secret, so it doesn't count. To the point where I was listening to, when I used to listen to the Spycast podcast, there was a situation where there's the FBI, there was this woman who was literally in Pakistan for the State Department. And she was like coordinating with the Pakistanis for that stuff. And then she would came back to Washington, D.C., and she was literally almost arrested by the FBI for doing her damn job. It was ridiculous. Like, brave John Kerry came over and like privately gave her a word. And like, if you ever watch any John Kerry stuff, we all know how the bravery of John Kerry. But basically, yeah, this woman, like, they secretly went into her house, got all the documents, wanted to arrest her for like doing her literal damn job, because in Pakistan it was known, but in America it was top secret. And if she talked to anyone about what she was doing, she was committing a federal crime as far as they were concerned. And this is why we need to get the FBI out of freaking counterintelligence, because the cop attitude is all about not protecting national security. It's about making cases. And that's why you got to get them out of that. You need to separate and create an independent agency like we did here in Canada when we created CSIS out of the Mounties, because the attitude's the cop. We want to build cases and put people in prison is not what you need for an agency like that deals with counterintelligence, because they have to think the long game.
Fracas. I think that was completely illegal. Let's go ahead and have an investigation. I think we should.
But Blaine, there's something that made it all okay.
What?
Which was that Obama was young, slim, handsome, articulate, smooth talking.
Oh,
and he was a Democrat. And on the inside, right?
That makes it okay. That makes mass murder okay.
Yeah. I forgot that part.
He doesn't do, and he still hasn't done, as far as I know, mean tweets, which are the worst.
He's done a couple.
Has he?
Lately.
Okay,
he's getting, have you seen his hair? He's turning gray quickly. He's
gray with worry.
He seems a little more nervous than he was before. You could tell by the criminal defense attorneys he's recently hired.
Yeah.
Yes, well, we should come to that, right? In a subsequent
that's
conversation.
a whole other video.
A whole other conversation, right? I'm very interested in that. Okay. Then getting this island, I forget the name of it.
Karg
Island, 2,500 Marines possibly going on that island. Maybe, possibly, right? Yeah.
We've discussed this yesterday. I do not think those are going to Kark.
Then to allow that would then make it okay for Iran to export oil. I don't understand. How does that work?
No. Well, here's the thing. Selective exports of oil. So, are we really going to stop oil from going to the Chinese right now? No, they've been getting their tankers through just fine, thank you. Mm-hmm. Why? Because the superpower stays on the sidelines that way. It's like, what are you new? let them have their oil.
Excuse me, General, move over. I'm the social worker. I'm in charge now.
Yeah. Thanks. I can just see President Trump listening in the Situation Room when somebody says, and we got to blow up everything on Karg Island. I can just see him twisting his head going, oh yeah, that's smart. Yeah, let's do that. So China doesn't get oil, no sulfur to Ethiopia for fertilizer, and the Chinese don't get gas. Brilliant. What else do you got?
Yeah.
How else does this war end?
Yes, how else?
I mean, this is the thing, unfortunately, and the people should be worried about this. there are absolutely those kinds of numbskulls sitting in Washington, D.C. with very high paid positions, and they're called experts on everything. And they've got fancy titles, and they've worked at the best think tanks. They've gone to the best schools. And you sit there and you look at them going, you are crazy.
Yeah.
You are a crazy person.
Yes, you are a crazy person. I've met
So
some of these
the
people.
oil needs to continue to flow out of the straits. It is going to be secured. Sulfur needs to get to the third world for potash and fertilizer. And the Chinese should get the gas and be told, which they are, coming soon to a theater near you, you're going to be paying retail for this oil. You know that, right?
Yeah.
The big deep Ayatollah discounts going away. So the China's made bank off of buying oil from rogue states. Hey, Russia, we need the Russia discount. Or hey,
Yeah, and it
Ayatollah.
really blows my mind talking to some Americans about this stuff because they're like, "Oh no, we can't have this. Well, Russia can be back in the market as long as they leave Ukraine." I'm like, "That's not happening. I would like a threesome with Natalie Portman and uh, Scarlett Johansson. I have a better chance of pulling that off than Russia leaving Ukraine." Okay, like, come on, get over yourselves. What is more important to the United States? Your national security or Ukraine's national security? You want China's building a blue water navy based on the discounts they're getting from Russia and Iran and other countries. You want to stop that because that's in your national interest. Start thinking about your national interest and not other people's interest. And cheap oil is in your interest. And China getting gas at half the price is not in your interest. God.
Well, we need the Iranian sanction discount. So we're gonna pay $30 a barrel. And the Iranians will just pump it out of the ground and sell to you because they got to have the money.
Right.
So that day is going to change. Look at Venezuela.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yep.
Sorry, China, we'll let you have the oil. No problem. But it's retail now. And if that makes an iPhone more expensive, well, then it makes an iPhone more expensive.
Oh, but who's getting
get
the
used to
revenue? Who's going to get the revenue? The Iranians or the US going to take a cut?
I don't know because so here's the thing, the Boy Scout answer would be, oh no, my friend, it's all Iranian. It's Iranian assets and resources, and they should have all of that. We would never put our fingerprints on it. No, we probably will take a cut because it's for services rendered. Hey, dude, you got your country back. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think those bombs cost? Do you think they're free? Do you think those interceptors cost nothing?
Oh my God, they're all fucking gangsters, a fucking lot of them. Oh my God, Blade.
You wanted to cover politics there, Rich. This is what you get.
That's gangsterism. But
It's gangsterism.
it
but-
is gangsterism.
Okay, so here's the thing. I am an Iranian, and I'm sitting in Isfahan, and I'm about 19 years old, and I've got this dream of being a journalist, and I want to report the truth. And I really want to do that, and I want to have my own business, maybe make a paper. But I don't think I'm willing to pay for American bombs to come here and knock out this police state. I'll just take my chances. We're not going to pay for those Patriot missiles and those ships to come over here. We're not going to give them a cut of our oil. I'd much rather take my chances with the besieged. Oh, I said something bad in that paper I wrote, and now they're here with a car battery, and they're going to electrocute my tongue until I'm dead.
There used to be a show in the 90s called Mad TV, and they used to have this commercial, they do fake commercials, and one of them was like computers for the third world, and they would have like these torturers come on and like they're getting ready to zap a guy in there's an electric tub, and they got the battery getting ready to zap him, and they're talking about their computers. It was a really interesting gag.
That sucks. So I think what you're going to find is a lot of free Iranians who are like, it's not a bad, those are not bad terms. Okay, sounds good. What do we got to do again? and we're gonna stop killing people? Okay, yeah, no, that's not a bad world. But President Trump does think very transactionally, and he doesn't, he looks at the corruption. And honestly, you may disagree with me. That's okay.
Hmm.
NGOs that are sponsored by the American taxpayer through the intelligence services have killed more people on this planet than I think many wars added up.
I don't disagree with you. I absolutely agree with you.
So wouldn't you rather just have the naked terms and conditions right up front? Hey, here's a free country. That's yours. No nuclear weapons. Let's remember that rule. And you know, you can use the Navy. We'll help escort your oil out from time to time. You got to charge the Chinese full freight. But we're all going to be great, and you guys are going to get along. And welcome back. This is when the World Cup is. Here's when the Olympics are. We'll see you there. It'll be great. Which one?
Okay. Okay. No, that's good. I get it. I get it, right? But here's the other side. You said that the City of London and the European Union are upset that one side is going to be taken out. What if
Of their control.
Mhm.
out of their control, right? But is
Yeah.
one belligerent is going to be slapped down so he's no longer belligerent?
Well, it
What if?
may have the other belligerent, namely Israel, is it could find itself in a position where, hey, there's nobody else to go to war with. Pretty much destroyed every square inch of Gaza. It's got to be rebuilt. We got to help develop the folks behind and put some love on them. You've taken out what's left of the leadership of Hezbollah. Actually, as it turns out, Lebanon doesn't really like them either, and they're going to be working to get themselves up on step to take care of that. If you'll stop that, Turkey will stop wanting to go after you because your foreign policy is shifting to the Abraham Accords. And we have it on good authority that now that there's no more Iranian money flowing into Yemen, the Houthis are going to pipe down and stop throwing missiles at you.
Yeah.
So, in other words, you have a belligerent right now where it'll take the politics and the passion some time to cool down, but they will cool down. And quite honestly, Rich, I think that the Israeli people writ large are going to start asking more questions about October 7th and what happened that day. Just like here in the United States, I think we're going to be asking more questions about what really happened on
9/11.
9/11.
Yeah.
And we've got to go through those naked truths together. And they're going to lead us to some really bad places, I
Yep.
believe. And we're going to have to confront that. And that's why um, people who are out in front of the curve is in terms of being awake and understanding things like the City of London and what the globalist agenda is and how they play both sides of these wars. We're going to have to be very helpful to the people who are just kind of coming in going, what? What? I didn't understand any of this. And it's like, I know. I know. You've
Okay.
been
Yeah,
But
I myself have like different levels of conversations with different people based on how far down the rabbit hole they seem to be. I told my mother I think it's just a bunch of rich people conspiring to keep the rest of us poor, and she's like, "That makes total sense." Of
what you describe in dealing with the other belligerent, Israel,
course, her father was a communist, so she would pick that up.
was to stop them from pursuing their greater Israel project. I mean, in one way, I think it's absurd. Israel's a tiny, tiny country. How on
sure.
earth is it going to rule such large territory?
It needs political backing from external countries to do anything of the sort. And let's be very clear. When you look at the boundaries, you can go online to find any map of what the Greater Israel Project looks like. When you look at that and you look at that land being forcibly taken in any direction, shape, or form, well, that is World War III, and that is a human extinction event, and it does pull us right off the cliff. And so, um, I think what we'll find is that we don't just have a war-weary America, we have a war-weary world.
Yep.
And you're just, even amongst the globalists and the neocon faithful, they're going to understand the political inadmissibility of that. It's
Yeah.
not an executable pathway.
Mhm.
And what I also think is when you take something away, you got to replace it with something. I think when you watch these cultures be freed of war weapons and they're flourishing economically and they're all in some sort of integration and interplay, um, you're going to never even remember those dreams of conquest and land and expansion.
Yeah, I think that Israel's setting themselves up to be like the Silicon Valley of the Middle East, and that's for their real future. It's not going to be the greater Israel project. Especially given the direction of travel in the United States. Trump may be the most pro-Israeli Israel president ever. He'll be the last pro-Israel president ever. The Republicans are kind of done with him, and so is the Democrats are gone and the Republicans are going. So you see Candace Owens, you saw Charlie Kirk, and you see all these other people who are going away from the Israel, being pro-Israel. Now, I don't think it'll hurt Israel in the long run. Anyways, they have other partners in the air with much more shared interests. India, Russia, all these countries that are much closer to the United States than the Atlantic Ocean and have just as much interest in being their backer instead of United States. So I think we're going to see, and I think the boomer, I was talking on my Christian Zionist podcast last night with Owen, and yeah, we're just not seeing that anymore. Like that whole BoomerCon is dying off. So when that voting block leaves the realm, and Gen X is finally allowed to come in and take over in the United States. It's already done so in Canada. We'll be able to see that because we have different incentives. Why? So most politicians last maybe 2 or 3 terms here and get out. There's very few that die in office anymore because the incentives is, well, first off, we have a mandatory retirement age of 75 for all politicians. So they're not allowed to go past 75 here, which is pretty high. And we can see with Trump being over 78 and 78 now, that's a different situation. Some people can still do that longer, but just the incentives are no longer there to stay in office. And so unless you die in a car crash or a heart attack, like one guy I met who was a very interesting guy, he said, I've been in 7 different political parties and I've never crossed the floor once.
And perpetual suspicion and threats. Because what we'll do is we'll watch our kids and our grandkids come together in a different world with a variety of programs that are not led by intelligence community NGOs, but in a different construct for foreign policy. That alone will create more of a desperate City of London situation. And honestly, I think they're going to do every single thing they can to stop that. I think they'll do every single thing they can to stop that. It has nothing to do with the world order that they envision of technological and social control of the population. And you'll be lucky if you can get into a 15-minute city. I see a desperate enemy who's willing to do desperate things here in the final chapters, but I'm very optimistic that we're going to get over this.
Good. Yeah. Okay. All right. And just to add to your point, one of the things that there's been happening since October the 7th is a growing disillusionment and hostility and antipathy to the Zionist project within the United States electorate.
Yeah.
That more and more
Yeah,
people.
no, that's true. People are going, well, most Americans would just go, what the hell Zionism? I don't understand.
Right, but in terms of
doesn't
how
that
Israel
mean
is,
Until a few months ago, that was kind of my thing. And that's why I did the podcast last night. I really wanted to get into this because I understand the political implications, but I wanted to also understand theologically why this was bad. And like when you consider that what the Christian Zionists want for Israel, it's really, really awful. Like their plan is like to bring about the end times, and they want the church of Satan to take over Israel. That's their theology. That's how it works theologically. I'm like, what the hell?
Support the Jewish people, and what they're now starting to understand is the delineation between that. If you're not a Zionist, it doesn't mean you're an anti-Semite at all. It means you could be a great lover and supporter of the Jewish people.
Yeah.
But this adherence to somebody's interpretation of history that's been institutionalized, it requires some scrutiny, and I think I see the signs that scrutiny is coming on now.
Yeah. So which ties in with my assertion or rather question at the beginning that this whole what's been happening since October the 7th is undermining the regard and the position of Israel.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
Bad,
and
bad
then
for Israel.
the thing that you said that Trump couldn't be using this to create backlash against Israel, because there's so many people in the government, in the machinery of the government, that would blow a whistle on it because they're
Oh
supportive
yeah,
of Israel.
in 9 seconds. In
Yeah, which
they'd use
makes
that.
complete sense. Except something I've heard, and I can't remember where, is that Trump has said that he has some plans that he doesn't tell anybody.
Correct.
Oh, that's true.
Oh yeah.
That's very true. And I'm always happy when that is true,
Yeah. So
because there's so many snakes around him. No, I am very pleased that he keeps his own counsel.
yeah.
Um,
So
and
so
you
what?
know, and you will continue to develop that line of thinking.
Yeah, and I just want to look at the quote and what Joaquin Flores said. And by the way, I recorded a video with him and Tom Luongo,
Hmm.
which is going to go out today, um, which are very, very interesting. Both of them talking about this issue. Let me just find it here for a second. I sent it to you because it links to something else as well. So Trump posted on Truth Social, remember, for all those absolute fools out there, Iran is considered by everyone to be the #1 state sponsor of terror. We are rapidly putting them out of business. Seems clear enough, right?
Yeah.
Except, except this is what Joaquin said in his Telegram group. I do recommend it, right? And you can join as well, Blaine, if you're on
Okay.
Telegram, right? Um, at New Resistance, which is all of the. So this is somebody in the group that said all of the people who kept saying that Iran is the biggest terror state are the real fools, and we are putting those fools out of business.
Hmm.
Like the them could refer to Iran, or it
Hmm.
could refer to the fools.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I'm wondering how Trump's messaging. He's very, very clever
Yes, he is.
with his messaging.
He is.
So,
No question.
so there you
No
go.
question.
Blaine, you're not going to get a response to that because I'm going to acknowledge you for something, right? Which is one,
Hmm.
just your grace and civility in this conversation, and then the conversation that we recorded most recently with Harley Schlanger, you, me, and Harley
Oh
Schlanger,
yeah.
president of LaRouche Organization. My son, who edits these videos and upload them, he said
Mhm.
it was the most civil debate he's ever listened to, because both of you disagree, but it was so reasoned and respectful and civil. It was
I will definitely have to check that out. So I just wanted to give my thoughts and on this video because I thought it was important. It's covering a lot of what's going on today. And now that I want to thank my one viewer and any future viewers to for this, and I'm just going to read off my last bit here. So I'm David March. If you like this stuff, subscribe now, hit the bell. We dig deep into the shadows every time. Keep your eyes open, stay informed. We'll be back with the updates as this unfolds. Thank you. Bye bye.